Joseph Chatoye, Amala Faraganu Harasagari Nagu, Kumagi along, Joseph La Faraganu Harasagari Nagu,
99.9 WEFM. WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
All right, so the time here in SVG, it is 8:15, and we are going to head into our scheduled interview for this morning. So I'll take it over to Dianna.
All right. So, Buiti Binafi, Miss Ellie, Buiti Binafi James, Buiti Binafi Ganigi.
Dianna.
We are going to have our interview that is entitled The Life and the Legacy of Garinagu. Well, we have 4 panelists with us today. We have Mr. James Lavelle, Miss Eleanor Castillo Bullock, Ganigi, and Mr. David Darkey Williams. Let me once again say Buiti Binafi to all of our panelists.
Buiti Binafi, Dianna.
All right, can everyone hear us?
Yes.
Aye.
Hi, can everyone hear us?
Hello? Oh, wow.
Yes. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear.
Can you hear? We're not hearing you.
We're not hearing. You're not hearing who?
Okay, we're not hearing. All right, David, good morning to you. All right, so let's
everyone listening.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Good morning. Rajiv, if you're hearing us, Paige and Rajiv. All right, so good morning. So Dianna, you could probably let us know the essence of today's conversation.
So for today's conversation, we are supposed to be talking about the Garifuna people. A topic that I think that we all, as Vince mentioned, should have the knowledge of, and I think it's something that we're supposed to be having continuous conversations on. So we're going to be looking at the Garifuna people, whatever questions you may have, whatever misconceptions, misunderstandings that we hope to be cleared up, shall be cleared up today. We'll talk about the food, we'll talk about the culture, the language, the colors, and all that is associated with Garifuna. We're just trying to sort out what's going on with our live because we cannot hear from our guests who are online, and I'm not sure if they can hear from us.
Okay, are you hearing us clearly? You're hearing us? Yes. Okay, but we're not hearing you. So, okay. Okay, so let's hand it over to David, given that he's here.
All right.
Okay, so if you want to just tell us a bit about what the Garifuna Heritage Foundation is about.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to my colleague panelists this morning. James, how are you doing? Miss Ellie, how are you doing?
How are you, Darky?
I'm not sure I know the other person, but my memory would hopefully recollect before this is finished. The Garifuna Heritage Foundation and the Garifuna in St. Vincent. It is, and recognizing the history of Garifuna in St. Vincent is an ongoing task. And let me say from right up front, although the Garifuna Heritage Foundation, the organization that I'm president of, we do our share, but we do need hundreds of others, activists, artists, whoever we can get. We do need to have them joining the struggle, because it is a struggle, even for recognition of the history of Garifuna. It is a struggle. And the foundation, Garifuna Heritage Foundation, has been trying little by little. I think we are succeeding in breaking down the stereotypes and the insults, if we could even call we could call it that, to see how we could break down for the Vincentian public the importance of Garifuna, the importance of the history of Garifuna, and very importantly, recognizing that, understanding that will, I am sure, strengthen our national psyche, because the story of Garifuna is a huge story. It is a very inspiring story. And we hope from time to time that as things break down, we are going to realize the enormity of this culture that we call the Garifuna culture.
All right. I really want to hear from our guests, but hopefully we get that issue sorted. So for now, Daki, all the questions will be for you until we can get the audio sorted out.
Okay, let me just say something. So, all the persons who are on the live, the panelists, could you just maybe just say hi? So that's if it's really no, say
Hi.
verbally.
Oh,
Hi.
Hi.
still not.
Hi.
Okay, so
Can
Rajiv,
you
if
hear
you
me?
heard them, the thing is that we're not hearing in studio, so that might be the challenge, right? We're not hearing as announcers.
So people can hear on the live.
Yeah, Rajiv said that he heard. All right, so
Right, we
maybe
can
something
hear
with
This
us.
is
you.
for.
Yeah. All right.
Anyways, as we go on, we'll get it. Miss Ellie, we can't hear you. But we're gonna get that sorted. So the issue is the persons on the live who are viewing on Facebook and YouTube can hear you, but we in studio cannot. But
All right, so
we're getting that sorted. So one of the first questions: who is Garifuna, or who are the Garifuna people? Because there's some confusion around that.
And that persists. We from time to time there are publications that come out that thanks. Yes, from time to time, publications will come out that place Garifuna or that questions the origin or the origination of the Garifuna people in terms of their ethnicity. Where, in terms of geographically, where they come from, everybody agreed it is in St. Vincent, that Garifuna people are from St. Vincent. But how Garifuna, that
all right,
the
David,
ethnicity.
just give me 1 second, please. The panelists on the live, could you say something for us, please?
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, so we're still not hearing. All right, so David, you can continue.
In terms of ethnicity, the story and the working story up to this point is of Africans that ended up in St. Vincent and intermarried with the, for use of a different word, the Carib people, who today we call Garinagu, because of their origin. They came across to St. Vincent from South America, the Orinoco region, and they populated the Caribbean. And from my understanding of the history, in St. Vincent, there were Arawaks and there were Kalina.
Okay,
There were Arawaks and there were Kalina. The Kalina people met the Arawaks here, they intermarried, they made children, and those are the people we call Garinagu today. They were fair skinned. And then the Africans came, cohabitated with those people, Kalina people, and their skin became, their children came out dark skinned. And so those children were called Black Caribs. Over a number of years, these Black Caribs outnumbered the Kalina people. Remember, Kalina or Garinagu those people who were born from the coming together of Arawaks and Galena. So this third ethnicity joins into the other two, and that's where we got our Black Caribs from. Black Caribs are those persons in history. They are the ones that are recognized in history as belonging to a different ethnicity, and from that coming together, there, well, we will get into things like the fights and the battles and all of those kind of things. But they ended up in Central America, on the island of Roatan, across Honduras, Belize, around that area. They ended up there after finally succumbing to the pressures of the British in war. They ended up there as prisoners of war, I believe. And a few years after they had settled in Belize and Honduras and so on, a decision was made to call themselves Garifuna or Garinagu.
Okay, David, 1 second again, please. Just 1 second. All right, so we're testing persons on the panelists on the live. Could you just say something so that we can see if the...
We're still here.
All right, that's
Good
one.
morning.
All right.
Good morning.
Okay, great. Thank you, Superman. Thank you. All right. Thanks,
Good
Raj.
morning.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so David.
Biti Benafi Ganege, Biti Benafi James, Daki, Biti Benafi.
Bete Benafi.
All right.
So we are at the point where the Black Caribs are in Central America. And after moving from the different countries in Central America, mainly Belize, Honduras, Guatemala, and Nicaragua, and there were smatterings in other countries, and they're still there after 225 years plus. They're still in other countries in small numbers. They made a decision to call themselves Garifuna or Garinagu. We may get into the history of where Garinagu comes from, but prior to that nation in exile, because that's what that's how we'll refer to them, as a nation in exile. They still up to today are a nation in exile, a nation without a home. So yes, but they made that decision, and today they are recognized across the world as Garifuna. Prior to that, they were referred to by all the derogatory names. And I'm talking about the British had done their part getting them to where they are now. Where they are now, they were subjected to the same sort of horrible abuse and racism and those kind of things in those countries. So adopting the name Garifuna for the nation, for themselves as a nation, was a very significant undertaking and successful, I might add. So I don't know if James or Miss Ellie want to add the missing pieces here.
Miss Ellie, James?
Sure. I'm not sure about adding missing pieces because it's difficult to add pieces to history.
Yeah.
Especially because we were not there. And the only way that we can share some of that fact or truth is me personally. I could take it from when I was a child, And I was born in Belize, and the fact that from the time that my grandmother knew that we understand what she's saying or what she would be talking about, she would always tell us that we are not Belizeans. We
Right.
we are Garinagu. I've heard that term later on, Black Caribs, but mostly Garinagu. But we are not from Belize. She would always say that we are from Saint Vincent. So we heard that all our lives up to when we grew up to be adults. But she always said that we are from Saint Vincent. We are Garinagu, and the most important thing about it is she spoke a language that was the only language that I knew. So she always spoke Garifuna to us, as opposed to the Creole that is spoken here, which is the broken English
English.
that is
Right.
spoken in Belize. So she always said, when you go to school, you're not gonna hear Garifuna, but when we come home, you will hear Garifuna. And the thing about it is, we knew that it was a language because we spoke it at home, and we also spoke it to our friends when we would walk to school. A lot of us would just talk Garifuna. That's all we knew. And when we came back and forth to school, we just spoke Garifuna. So we kind of knew that there was a different language that we spoke, until we became an adult and really recognized it, especially after many of us migrated from Belize to go to America. So that's really when we would find out, you all are others, as they would call. We were
Yes.
others, yes, because the Americans, um, some of them heard our language later on and then knew that we did speak another language. So we had to by then explain. Me personally, when I got to America, because I was 10, I started when I started I think college. It might not even be high school. It was college when I started studying about the Caribs of the Caribbean. I started studying that, and also my late husband brought me books about the history of the Caribbean, and then he would say, "Here, you need to read this. Your ancestors are in these books." So I became very interested, and so I started reading about the Garifuna, the Kalinago, the Kalina, the Arawaks, the Ignaries, and all of that, to find out facts or what was written in the books about Garifuna. How much truth there are, all I could say is I speak another language. So there has to be some kind of truth to all of this.
Okay. All right. What I would like for panelists to do, though, is to just introduce yourself, because it's
Oh, I'm sorry.
this is
Yes,
right. If you could
I'm
just introduce yourself for us, please, and then we will
sure.
continue with the
Absolutely.
discussion.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Rolisa. My name is Eleanor Castillo Bullock. I was born here in Belize. I'm here now in Belize. James and I are here doing a Garifuna project. So we are in Dangriga. I am in Dangriga, Belize right now. Thank you for
Okay.
inviting me.
All right. Don't be
Good
shy.
morning.
Don't be shy.
Good morning
Hi,
once
good morning,
again.
everyone. Buiti Binafi. My name is Ganigi. I was born in Urume, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am currently living in the United States, so I'm coming to you live from Maryland, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you all for inviting me.
Okay.
Buiti Binafi Hansungube. My name is James Lavelle. I'm a Garifuna artist, and I'm presently here in Belize, but I live in Gainesville, Virginia. Sereme.
Okay.
Same.
I'm learning languages this morning. I'm just learning some new words. So, all right.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So, as you on the topic of language, let us go right into the Garifuna language because, as Miss Ellie correctly said, it is a language that is spoken. You're hearing the language here. I've heard conversations in the language. There are songs. If you were listening just before we started the interview, there was a song that was playing, and that song was sung by James Lovell, who's right here on the live, and it's called Wala Miseru. Translated, our sad experience. That's the correct. Am I correct, James? Wala Miseru, our sad experience.
Yes, Walami Seru, our sad
Okay,
experience.
right. So that we have that language, and you've been hearing us say Buiti Binafi, which means good morning in Garifuna. But I am going to hand it over to the panelists to tell us a little bit more about the Garifuna language.
Yes. Well, as for me, I do not speak the language. I know a couple of words. That's part of growing up British. I guess that's the price you pay for when you're colonized. But I do not know the language. I do not speak the language. So most of this segment, I think Ganigi and Miss Ellie and James would go with that.
All right.
Can I say, since we're talking about the language, and I want to piggyback on what Daki was talking about, the struggle. The key word here is the struggle, because we as Garifuna are struggling to hold on to our language. It has been declared as facing extinction and
Wow.
endangered, and UNESCO declared that. However, we as Garifuna speakers, we can see that there is a struggle happening today to try to preserve the language. We are losing our Garifuna language. I am here in Dangriga, Belize right now, the capital of Garifuna, and you don't even hear the language unless if you speak directly to a speaker, and you say something, or you speak to them. Personally, I insist on speaking Garifuna to people who I believe or who I think are Garifuna. But there is a major struggle for us to preserve this language because we are losing it. I personally take responsibility because we did migrate to America, and many of us who migrated to America, it may have started there where we did not teach our children our language when we got to America, and I can clearly see that the language was not also taught to the younger generation here in Dangriga, Belize, or in Belize at all.
Okay. So, Miss Ellie, what is being done? Whether it's to pass on the language, the speaking of the language in Belize, or even here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I know that you are not supposed to be a one-woman army. I know that it's not supposed to be your task only. But in what way have you tried to get persons to come together to pass on that language? Or in what ways is it being documented so that even if it's not verbally spoken, there is at least either some written or electronic means by which persons can go back and see what the language is all about?
Mm-hmm. We actually just started writing it. I can't give you a number on the years, but we are writing it now, especially through our artists such as James Lavelle. He writes in Garifuna, he writes songs in Garifuna, and most of them are transposed from America. Some of them are transposed from American songs. So that is one way that we are trying to hold on to the language through our music. And personally speaking, um, from it's been a while since I have created theater or dramatic programs, especially to try to teach our language through performing arts or from the stage. So I have been doing that for quite some time because I believe you could send strong messages through theater or through performances.
Okay.
So we
And
have
James,
been doing that, and then we also do courses. Diana will know we've gone to Urume, to St. Vincent, to try to do language preservation programs, and we continue, Mr. Lavelle and myself, to do Garifuna language programs, including classes. We've done that before, but at this time we are still just doing workshop program with theater, poetry, songs, music in Garifuna in our effort to try to preserve.
okay, and curious question: has letter proposal been sent to the our Ministry of Education, advocating for it to be introduced as our second language? Has any sort of communication been sent to the Ministry of Education?
Yes, let me
Okay.
attempt to answer that question. Roleza, right? Roleza?
Lisa.
Release.
Roleza.
The accent is
Okay,
quite
I'm
different.
sorry. Yeah, we have done that several times. The fact that the language is endangered, and it is vital that we try to retrieve and to safeguard it. And we do that, like what Ellie was saying, by way of teaching our children how to sing. We start with using music as a medium because it's a lot easier, because it's more fun filled when children are singing, dancing. It's more an easier way to internalize the language, because that's, rather than when you're sitting down and trying to get rules and regulations, it's more complicated and I can say boring to a certain extent. So we do that, and it has been working perfectly well ever since we started in 2011. Actually, in the very first time was 2005 in Belize, and also again in 2008 in Belize. And then we started in 2011 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And from then until presently, 2023, we have made, a major progress when it comes to bringing the Garifuna language upfront and permanent to Vinci, mainstream Vinci. And I believe that the hurdles is the fact that we were not getting grants. We were not being awarded grants. We were not being supported or sponsored. And we had to do it literally on our own accord. I I will definitely have to mention certain people who brought Garifuna to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because this is the case, this is what we're here for. I'm talking specifically about St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It came to fruition in 2011 by Eleanor Bullock, myself, James Lavelle. We had James Cordis from Clay Valley. We had Trish St. Hill from
Barley.
I think Barley,
Yeah.
and we also had Verna Authors and Kyla Herbert. There we were the pioneers in 2011. I can testify. I know my sister Eleanor can testify. That's when we started to make an impact. And I believe that Garifuna is now permanently displayed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where the children are singing the national anthem in Garifuna. They have learned over 30, 40 songs during the course of Habina Garinagu and Yuga Cure. So I believe that it's just a matter of, keep on keeping on. I believe that with the assistance of the government. I believe that with the assistance of the education department to seriously have that conversation to come up with a Garifuna curriculum to be included in the schools so that Garifuna can be, on its way to be safeguarded.
Yes, yes.
I could just add, though, that there's something very encouraging along the line of the language that is happening in St. Vincent in a small community, but nonetheless, it is happening. The fancy government school have this program that they do. I don't think it's every day, but at least once per week, their prayers, their morning prayers on that particular day would be done in Garifuna.
Yeah,
So there
wonderful.
are little pockets of encouragement, but it is not enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Definitely. I would like for you to tell me, as descendants of Garifuna, you were, we heard you say, Miss Ellie, from the day you were able to understand your grandmother's speech, she taught you who you were, where you came from. How does it feel today, knowing all that you know about the Garifuna people and knowing that this is the land that you are from? How do you feel about the way that your land treats you, your culture, and everything that is Garifuna?
When I went to Urume for the first time in 2011, first of all, when we get there, especially since we know and we have declared it our homeland, most of us that know our history, we have declared Urume, aka St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as our homeland. So when we get there for the first time, I got goosebumps. I really did. And then what really and then I was taken back because of course I'm there in our homeland waiting to hear our language, and none of that existed. I didn't hear none of it at all. So when I got there, I'm going around saying Biti Binafe, Biti Amidirogo, Biti Guyon, to my brothers and sisters in St. Vincent. So I'm sure they looked at me like I was crazy. Who's this crazy lady talking this language? But it's when what really hit me in Urume is when we took the group of students we were working with to, I think it was Greg's, and that was the first time that I saw signs. Everything in Greg's said Garinagu and Garifuna and Chateauye. And so I was really, so it gave me a lot more goosebumps. And then I was able to identify with the Caribs of St. Vincent because I saw their signs. They seemed to be into their Garifuna culture. And very unfortunate that we could not speak to each other in Garifuna. So there's definitely, and especially now, as a matter of fact, as I went back in 2023, I noticed even more now that Garifuna is seeping. For example, when I heard Gonzalez's speech, that we are seeing things now with Garifuna. We were able to meet Daki, David at the time, and Zoila, and we were able to connect and get to know that there are people in St. Vincent that are trying to do what we're doing to try to preserve our culture, our Garifuna culture, and our language. So I'm very happy to see that, especially now. Even some of the group meetings have been with Palacio, Kaya Leary James, with the Palacio guy. We Trevor
Trevor.
Palacio. Yes. He the pilgrimage will show that people are recognizing Garifuna even more as we travel to Belize to share our connection and to share our knowledge, our experience of who we are as Garinagu people.
All right, so to bring Kanigi into the because you're a little silent there, Kanigi.
Conversation, yes.
All right. I heard of your name in terms of where I heard of your name was when you sang that song for Judy Boucher. You sang it over in Garifuna. Why is it important for you to retain the language and in particular using it in from a Vincentian artist who's quite popular and one of her tracks that's quite popular?
Thank you. Good question. So, growing up in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I always knew that something was missing. Um, I grew up in Fancy, which is on the northern tip of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And growing up, we never learned anything about who we were as a people. We were just considered kind of like the outcast of the country, like the low people of the country, living on the what they call the last part, right? And but I always knew that something was missing in terms of why was my skin black? Why was I being called a Carib when we grew up knowing that the Caribs were, the what we call the light skinned people? Why were we all considered Caribs? So I was never able to differentiate between black Caribs and uh,
Yellow carrots, red
light skin
carrot.
Carib. I know light skin Carib. So I always ask the question, why when I go into the city, people are calling us Caribs, but we don't consider ourselves to be light skin Caribs. So as I continued to research and find out who I was, as I got older, um, when I moved to the United States after high school, and I continued to ask the questions. Um, I ran into some information about the Garifuna. I started reading about the Garifuna. I'm like, why does this sound so familiar? And as I continued to research the Garifuna, I realized that they're calling St. Vincent and the Grenadines as their home, and I actually started to call people back in St. Vincent to ask the question, who are these? Who are the Garifuna? How come we never heard about Garifuna people? So, long story short, a few years ago, I received a message from someone asking for my children to learn Garifuna, and I'm like, what Garifuna? And so I took it upon myself to join this Garifuna class, which was being taught by Miss Ellie and Mr. James Lovell here, and started learning a lot more about my culture as a Garifuna, who I was, and it all just made sense to me. And so once I found out that we had a language, I put my all into learning as much as I can about it, and singing. I like to sing, but I never considered myself a singer. But the way that the class was being taught, it was they were using music, right? Music to help us to learn the language, and um, that is how I heard Mr. James sing Judy Boucher's song, and I liked it, and I decided to learn um, that song in Garifuna so that way it can reach a wider audience in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, so they can have hear the language, what it sounds like, and that was my reason for doing the Judy Boucher song.
Okay. Out of curiosity, because you grew up in an area or community that we would Carib, persons of Carib descent. In
Right.
terms of growing up, so you spoke about not speaking the language, but did you see any remnants of past traditions, past activities of persons of Carib descent? Did you see any of it growing up?
Yes. So we are so connected. Um, the Garifuna in Belize, for example, they're very much into cassava, like the food, that the way that they do their foods, the way that they do their dress, the clothing that they wear. It's very much, um, it's like I can see no difference per se in how they live compared to how we lived in the northern part of the country.
Okay.
All right. Um, there's a question. Somebody was saying something. All right. So I'm trying to look at the clock because our time seems to be running out. But one of the things that I definitely want us to touch on before we leave is the ceremony that is usually held at the obelisk for Chatoyer. Um, now, Chatoyer is, I think it's unfortunate that we have a ceremony to celebrate a Garifuna chief and we don't speak Garifuna even at the ceremony, and even though the persons that are there at the ceremony don't even know the language or see the need to teach the language here. But I would like to know if that ceremony is reflective of his Carib and African heritage in terms of the way the ceremony is set up and the things that are done at the ceremony. And I ask this because I know that in other cultures, apart from the British culture, especially our African and the Carib cultures, we have different ways of celebrating our ancestors, of celebrating our heroes, a specific tradition or procedure that is done. So I would like to know if any of that is reflected in the ceremony that is held for Chatoyer.
Well, I think
Good question, Diana.
um, I was saying I think part of the answer to that, from my perspective, is that I don't think so. Um, I think the research has to be done. I think we have to understand the Garifuna culture in order to extract things from our knowledge of the culture to um, upgrade what is presented at the obelisk at North Etcher Hill. So, in its present form, I would say I don't think so.
All right.
James, you were
James, go
coming.
ahead because I have a little.
Yeah, I think it's what you're talking about, Diana, is the fact that it's been integrated. You see, because right now, I believe that what Habina Garinagu did in Urume was the fact that we taught the kids to sing in Garifuna, hence they're singing now the national anthem and other songs that in the original Garifuna language of the country. But because of what Darky just mentioned about the country being colonized by the British, English is also used, and I, as a musician, I see them using the police band playing, European music. uh, I feel like they can use the band as far as I'm concerned, but it should be music from Garifuna. They can look for Garifuna music, write it out. It can be written out and composed so that they can incorporate the band, but playing traditional Garifuna music. I feel like that would be okay because we do have to understand that It's an ongoing process. It's not 100% immersion program of Garifuna teaching, so English has to be there. I understand, but let's also include Garifuna. I insist that we speak Garifuna in every aspect, even if it's a little portion, but to completely not do it, it's not a good thing, knowing that Garifuna is the original language of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have somebody on the line. Let's see what this person has to say. Hi, caller. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. This is Kojo Mason.
Good
As a
job.
member of the Garifuna community in California, I have to tell you that there's a lot of music from Andy, a lot of folk songs that they could use in St. Vincent to perform in that Garifuna 14th of March. And he left a lot of, he's passed away, but he left a lot of good folk songs that could be played. Right? I can't pronounce his last name. I think it's
Palacio, Andy Palacio.
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 Right. And I have to tell you, Judy Boucher was first honored by Garifuna people in California. The first time she was honored in her life. It was here in California. We honor her.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
So
Kojo.
the Garifuna people love Judy Boucher long time.
All right.
Can you
Thanks.
just say something quickly, please, about that obelisk, the celebration? Let me just go back to that a little. There are a lot of our past students in St. Vincent who I personally think that when they do that March celebration, they should work with the students and the children who have participated in our program and add them to those March program at the obelisk. You can hear our children and our alumni students speak our language. They've been studying, they've been trying. Some of them have been teaching. A lot of them have remembered some of the songs that we have taught them, but they don't get them to participate in that program because personally I think it's more European than it is cultural or Garifuna, that obelisk program. But I think they should invite the people, the students, the individuals who are trying to hold on to our culture, in especially above the dry river. A lot of the students, there are students and young people there that are learning Garifuna. They need to bring them down for that obelisk celebration that they do.
All right. So we're going to have to wrap up this morning's interview. But what we're going to do is that we're going to allow each person to leave with us some final thoughts with regards to, well, our entire conversation, our entire topic. And if there's anything that you really wish to hammer home by way of passing on the legacy, the life, etc., everything that is Garinagu. All right. Yeah, even me, for persons like me, right. In terms of to hammer home that point. And Miss Ellie, you spoke about persons who are on the alumni who have had that training in terms of learning the language. So in your wrap up as well, you can let persons know how it is that if they wish to be a part of the learning experience of the language, where it is that they can go. But let's probably start with David as he's in studio.
Okay, thank you, Roleza and Dianna, for having me here to speak once again about what is happening with Garifuna. I would say, though, I'll go back to the obelisk. Chateauyear and March month is celebrated as National Heroes Month, and the 14th is our tribute to Chateauyear. Now that tribute is it's of Chateauyear as a military person, and I think apart from the police ban and the police participation in that event, I think we could also, those same people who Miss Ellie were talking about, from Yuga Kior, from Habinaha. Some of them I know, and some of the and they are enough. So include them, not just to give a dance as an item on the program, but for a military display with the flavor of Garifuna. I
Yes.
think it could be done. Many of those persons are artists who are active in the cultural life of St. Vincent today. We could identify them, get them together, and do a Garifuna military presentation alongside the police.
Okay.
That's my.
All right. Ganigi?
Thank you. I believe that, well, currently we have Garifuna being taught in the school in Fancy. A lot of the students, you go into the village and you'll hear them speaking Garifuna, which is, we've come a long way from the first time Miss Ellie said she came down to St. Vincent and um, never heard anyone speaking it. So I would like for support, for, the support so that we can continue to teach the language in schools. It's a start, but for us to get a lot more support, support for the Habina Garinagu Yurume program, the annual program that's led by Miss Ellie and Mr. James, so that way we can continue to teach the language introduce the language into the homeland of the Garinagu, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Yurume. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. James?
Yes. Thank you, Dianna and Roleza. Uh, Darky, I really appreciate you, Darky. You've been a stalwart, you've been steadfast, and I appreciate you. Ganigi, you're an awesome vocalist.
Warrior
You can, I believe that with your skills,
and talent.
you can definitely take Garifuna, the language, and our struggle to a higher place. You call that Garifuna in high places, okay? And Eleanor, as always, you have my back, I have your back, and
Yeah.
we'll continue to do that so that we can, keep our culture, Garifuna, alive. Contrary to what UNESCO has proclaimed, I believe that our language, I believe that our culture will live. Nibagariti Garifuna. Garifuna will live. And, knowing that the work has started, and we continue, we're going to persevere like our ancestors did. They never gave up. They fought until they gave that ultimate price of their life so that we could be here. We can be rested on their shoulder because of the hard work that they did so that we can be alive today. I I will continue that legacy, and I believe the future is bright. The children are learning. I will not dampen their light. I believe that we just need to keep, asking the government, asking the education department, and talking to the parents, encouraging the parents to, if they don't know how to speak the language, then find somebody who can teach the children. So that is, I look at it from a brighter perspective. We Nebagariti Garifuna lives.
Mm-hmm. I
Nibagariti
agree, James.
Garifuna.
I agree highly. My last thing for everyone here and whoever's listening, let's get connected. Let's get connected. Let's stay connected. Our brothers and sisters in Urume. If you don't know about James and myself, find out about James and myself, because this is the life that we live. I have recently retired. Before, I was just doing a 9 to 5 just to survive, but now and then doing Garifuna on the side. Now that I've retired, my whole heart and soul is into saving our Garifuna culture and language. And anybody and everybody who wish to do that, I would love for them to connect with myself, Mr. James Ganigi, who is one of our star students that is trying. We are trying very hard to get rid of that endangered Garifuna language. We want to try to bring it back, retrieve it, revive it, sustain it, protect it, preserve it. So I leave everyone with that. Please connect everywhere we are. We are global now. We have means of staying and getting connected. So I think we should. Everyone that goes to Urume to teach, we should all know each other. We should all communicate and share this dialogue all the time. I think that is one way that we can try to hold on and preserve our Garifuna culture and language. Thank you for having us.
All right, Miss L, before you go though, how can persons get in contact with you?
Oh, Dianna.
Oh.
She got in touch with us.
Okay.
Doc here, you all know, some of you all out there know how to find us. So I encourage you, especially those brothers and sisters in Urume, if you want, some of our alumni, they do that now. When they want to write a poem and don't know how to say it, they reach out. We're here for that. We really
You're talking about, Ellie, you're talking about the angel, the Omega. You're talking about Shane.
Relicia.
Relicia, J. Kell. You're talking about so many powerful young souls that took this language. Dianna, exactly. They got the little boy, the dancer. Oh my goodness, how can I forget his name? You know him.
To Saint with Gracia.
Yeah. We got soldiers. I believe that Garifuna will not die. It's not going to die. I'm still here. Ellie is here. Dianna is here. Ganigi is here. Dark is here. Garifuna will not die. I'm sorry.
All right.
Right. But the thing about it is, we want to keep it alive even after we go, because we're definitely not here to stay forever. But we want to have the impact for it to stay alive and to not die even after we die.
All right.
Yeah, I agree.
Unfortunately, we did not have enough time to discuss a lot of things because this conversation needs to be a lot longer than this and deeper than this. But we have come to the end of our interview, and we are really, really grateful that you were able to join us this morning for this discussion. You never know, we might be calling you in the future for a
match.
All right.
In match.
All right. That is so thank you very much, Sarame, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, Ganigi. Bye, James. Bye, Ellie. Well, that is right.
Ayo.
Ayo.
All right. Ayo. All right.
Ayo.
All right. And that concludes our